Hello, today we're going to go through some very basic editing techniques in Photoshop where we are going to remove some blemishes off of a portrait photo. So let's go ahead and get started by opening up Photoshop. I'm going to go to my launch pad, find Photoshop, and open the program. I typically edit on a PC, so I apologize beforehand if I get a little clicky, just because the commands are a little bit different. So here we have Photoshop open. I'm going to go ahead and find the image that I want to edit. So I'm going to go to File, Open, and I'm going to go to the desktop. On the desktop, I've already created a folder called Tutorial Basic Editing. I'm going to double click on that. And it is good practice to make sure that you always have the original image untouched, backed up in multiple places. And so this is the original image. I'm not going to touch this, and I have backed it up on multiple external hard drives and online storage. And here's a folder called Edited. In the folder called Edited is a copy of that image, and that's the image that I'm going to actually alter. I'm not ever going to touch the original file. You can imagine that you always want to keep that for future use if needed. So a couple things that I do right away. First off, I'm going to go ahead and crop this image because I want it a little bit tighter. This girl was wearing her class ring, so I kind of want that to be a focal point of the image. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the crop tool. And right now, I have a default setting of 5:7. I'm going to go ahead and stick with that. But something that's really interesting about Photoshop, if you wanted to crop this as a horizontal, you can just click the arrow keys there. And I'm going to just click and drag. I'm going to bring in top of her head just a little bit there. Okay, so once I have that, I'm just going to go ahead and double click. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. So the next thing I'm going to do is, and actually I'm going to copy this layer or copy this image by hitting Command J, making a copy of it, just so we can easily see the before and after. So the next thing I want to do is eliminate any blemishes or imperfections that are in the actual skin. So I'm going to hit Command plus. That is going to enlarge that image quite a bit so I can get in there real close to see any sort of blemishes that I want to remove. Now there's multiple ways to do this. There is a tool called Spot Healing Brush, which does a really great job in actually kind of sampling the skin next to any blemish. The key is to make sure that your brush is just a slight bit larger than what the blemish is. So I'm going to go ahead and roll over that and click. And Photoshop does a really good job sampling clean skin around there. The other blemish removal tool that I like to use is the patch tool. So if there's like a larger blemish area, let's just take this one here. I can actually draw around that and click and drag. And then if I hit Command D, it deselects that. And then my favorite tool, although I do love the Spot Healing Brush, is the clone stamp. So here I've clicked on the clone stamp, and I'm going to actually bring this up just a little bit more. And I want to get rid of this area here. If I use the Spot Healing Brush for this, Photoshop may sample the hair, and that's just not going to work. It's really odd. So I want to actually select what I want to sample here. So I'm going to hit the Option key and sample this area, and then I'm just going to click right over the top of that. And that does a pretty great job of eliminating any sort of imperfection that's really close to like a hairline. I can kind of still see that a little bit. That's going to bother me. So now I'm going to go in with a Spot Healing Brush, kind of just clean that up a little bit. There we go. That's better. Okay, so now we can look at before and after. That's really important for me when I'm editing, especially like blemish removal or skin softening, to make sure that I haven't taken it too far. The other thing I want to do quickly here is eliminate some of these flyaways. And with that, I like to use the clone stamp. And again, I'm going to get in there real tight. Excuse me. And I'm going to hit the Option key and then just go over. I don't want to get rid of all of these flyaways, because that's when it starts to look a little bit awkward. But these ones that are far out here, I do want to kind of just eliminate just so they're not as distracting. So option, I'm just option and clicking, and you'll notice that I'm kind of almost using this like a painter would have used a paintbrush. I'm clicking and then going over the section, clicking and going over the section. If you don't do that, you run the risk of making it look too choppy. So here's before, and here's an after.